Hello and welcome to Business Television India. I'm Aditya Rajkal and you're watching The Big Story. Days after India stopped Islamabad by refusing to hold bilateral dialogue with Pakistan on the sidelines of the SCO summit in Bishkek, India has strongly rejected any possibility of a dialogue in the immediate future without any visible action against terror. The development comes a day after Pakistan media reported about a letter written by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar to their counterparts across the border, wanting to initiate dialogue. India has termed the reports as an absolute fake news, which has no basis. And joining me on the debate this evening, Ambassador Vivek Kaju, former Secretary West of the Ministry of External Affairs, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the Observer Research Foundation, Michael Kugelman, Deputy Director, Asia Program of the Wilson Center, joining us from the Washington, D.C., and Sreeram Chaulia, foreign policy expert, also joining us. But let me get in Sreeram Chaulia also at this point in time. Sreeram, there's another important meeting of the Financial Action Task Force currently happening in US, and perhaps by tomorrow evening, India time, there would be a press conference and again a possibility of Pakistan being placed in the grey list. Do you think that 10-point action plan hasn't really been fulfilled because the Pakistani media and the Pakistani government have gone full throttle all across, creating a narrative that the terrorists are no longer active, the funding has been curtailed and action has been taken? What's the reality, do you think, and what do you expect happening at the FATF, where interestingly China will be becoming the chair next month?
Yeah, Aditya, it's a very embarrassing thing for them and they want the monkey off the back of FATF. So clearly they are trying to play nice with India, and as Ambassador Kaju was saying, to look like the more reasonable party in this bilateral dispute compared to India by saying, we are always ready for peace and for dialogue and for diplomacy. So I think they are using all levers, including fake news, to try and build up some kind of a good image for themselves, which of course has been quite sullied for years now. But I think the FATF action has not obviously really happened on the ground. We know that thousands of these jihadist fighters and their infrastructure is still active, and they are in cahoots with the state. That is the fundamental problem with this country, right? This is not a non-state actors who are running amok and the state is weak or unable to control them. We know that tactically, for example, they have controlled the flow of jihadists into the Chinese Xinjiang. And they have been able to try and moderate some anti-Chinese jihadist activity. So they do it very selectively. And that is the fundamental problem. FATF is well aware of it. See, most of the member states are very cynical. You look at the deliberations of what they discuss. Most of them just roll their eyes when they hear Pakistan. It's just seen as an impossible country that cannot be reformed or bettered, and therefore I think we are playing a role in it. Ravish Kumar is right to say it's sensitive because officially we wouldn't say it, but we are playing a role. We are behind the scenes active in making sure that we weaken national security threats to our country. So placing them on this list, possibly gray list, blacklist, whatever it is a good thing. Secondly, the IMF bailout also, Aditya, has just come around, and they are in the final stages of negotiations. And the Americans have just said that we will impose conditionalities on any IMF bailout to Pakistan, be it $6 to $12 billion. So while the US bilateral assistance is down, it's almost like hardly peanuts anymore under Trump, they still have levers to the IMF package. So if you take IMF and FATF together, Pakistan has some incentives to try and put on a kind of a positive branding for itself in the world. And more importantly, even domestically, whenever I talk to Pakistanis, even the ones who are critical of the government, average citizens, most of them believe this narrative that Modi is a hardliner, he doesn't want peace, we are ready for peace, but Modi is a warmonger. So this kind of thing has been created as a basis for the military to sustain itself. So if you look deeper, structurally, the civil-military imbalance and the overall domination of the military is so much. The IMF is, for example, asking them to cut down the defense spending and bring it down, and bring it under the official light, because it's all hidden and obscured. And we don't even know how much of the annual budget or the GDP is spent on defense there. So if you take all these factors, they need to play up the fact that somehow they are doing, they are the good citizens and the good Samaritans in this case. and that India is the bad one. So I think very important for us, not only as Ambassador Kajju is saying, our media should also be, I'm glad that you took up this story, Aditya, because we need to be at the forefront of telling the message to the world and exposing these lies and the fake news. Otherwise, what happens is, as Ambassador Kajju was saying, there is a constituency out there which is going to buy this and say, well, why are the Indians not ready? It looks like Pakistan wants peace. Why don't the Indians drop their hardline attitude? But the point is, we need to explain this hardline attitude, and we need to rationalize it better, and we need to make a more convincing public relations, pitch globally, not just rebutting the fake news, but also explaining the, rationale behind our actions, and also why we are trying to apply pressure. Pressure is not hardline. Pressure is because we want democracy in that country. We want a reduced military shadow in that country. We want to free the whole region of extremism and Islamist extremism and fundamentalism. So those are the kind of things, the positive aspects of our willingness to talk only if terror is brought under control must be projected in a better way. I think we should be doing that not just through official sources, but through our own private media as well.
All the moves being rightly made by the present Modi government, and it will be interesting to see how things roll out now. The ball certainly in Modi's court for now, and it will be interesting to see what the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, actually decides tomorrow evening, even as their plenary ends in the United States. Thank you very much, Michael Kugelman, for joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks also to Ambassador Vivek Karju, Sushant Sareen and Sreeram Chaulia for joining us on The Big Debate.